So that's great. I mean, so at least the paper is not rejecting any of the dry medium at all. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Is It Worth It, where I go around the globe and the internet trying to find supplies that are going to benefit you as an artist, whether it's to make you faster or have a better understanding of the material, or just to have fun and find a new tool that you can actually use. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. I was going through the Dollar Tree and I was like, I wonder what they have here. You know, they have the basic stuff, and I probably will be going to some of their art supplies. But the one thing that caught my eye was this $1 sketchbooks. And so we have 50 pages of 9x6 drawing sketchbook, and I'm very curious to see how this paper is, how it will do, and you know, it is very clear on what it's good for. It's for pencils and dry medium and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to try and test that, and maybe even hit it with some, you know, wet media to see how it will actually interact. But if this is indeed halfway decent, then you can get sketchbooks from the Dollar Tree and still be able to produce some good work. All right, I can't wait to see if this is actually worth it. Come on, let's go check it out. All right, so as you can see, you know, it's just a regular sketchbook. It's spiral bound, right? It's got a tight spiral on it. We open it up and it says it even has techniques on it on how to draw, which is really like, here's a drawing, now you're done. Right? Those are always funny, but it gives you a link to their YouTube page. So that'll be interesting to look at. I'll definitely put a link in the description for that, just in case it will help. But you know, nothing too fancy to it. It says that it's suitable for pencils, charcoal, crayon, and pen, made in the US, Treehouse pad and paper. So, you know, might actually be interesting. All right, so the paper itself. Okay, so you know, you listen to it. Oh, that was 2 pieces. All right, so it's not. I mean, I'm not gonna say that it's super thick. The paper's not super thick. It's actually a pretty thin paper, right? But it's a nice smooth consistency, so that's really nice, right? So it feels smooth. It's not a rough paper. So I mean, if you're looking for textured paper, this is probably not the thing. It is pretty smooth. So there's that. So just gonna break out a mechanical pencil real quick and see what happens. And so it seems to accept this pencil really well. I believe this is an HB, right? All right, there's no like scratching, or you know, it's like, oh my goodness, what's happening here, right? So I mean, it seems to do pretty well for like a mechanical pencil, right? So that's nice, right? So it does. I mean, can't say like I would already be like, oh yeah, I can use this paper, right? And then it allows you to get darker and stuff like that. So it seems to be doing just well with the typical mechanical pencil. So that's good, right? Looks good to me. All right, let's go ahead and break out some, you know, some traditional stuff. All right, so we're gonna go from 2H. I have to say, this, as far as the paper goes, right, it's not bad. And we'll go to H. All right, go from H. Where's my? Oh no, don't have my HB. 2H. then we'll go here because this is an HB. Alright, and then we'll go B, which we've been using a lot. I mean, you can't fight this. It's taking the pencil just fine, right? It's allowing for the stuff to actually come down and go down very smooth, right? 3B, 4B. 5B. 6B. 7B. And 8B. Right? I mean, just went through the whole gamut. Let's see how it does with blend, like smudging and blending. Alright, so we'll use like a 2B, just put that down. See, you can even pull, right? You can even come in and blend it with, I'm old school, like I'll just use my finger and just make sure you wash your hands beforehand so that all those oils don't mess with your paper. But you can just come in here, right, and blend away. So you can even get some really nice like transitions, like if you're trying to do those kind of, those rendered drawings, this pencil render drawings. You could just come in, see, look at that, right? And you just come in and keep working it. It allows you to really blend that through. Right? So that's great. I mean, so at least the paper is not rejecting any of the dry medium at all. So that's great. Look at that. All right, you can come in and just, all right, if you're the type of person who wants to come in and slowly build, you can, and then you can just work that in. You can also use your blending stump and stuff like that, right? And you just go to town. Cool. All right, so can't argue with the dry media. All right. See in the back and see, and it's not, we used the pencil and it's not completely blurring out and dying, right? So it holds up against that. Now it mentioned that it could use like pen, so alright, sorry. So I mean, it might just be my pen. The pen's dying. But with pen, I'm starting to see how it beads up and breaks apart, right? And it seems to be consistent on how it's not accepting that pen. All right, so we'll use Le Pen, a little drawing pen, and see how it does with that. I think the felt tip pen works better. Felt pen versus the regular pen, the ballpoint pen. Alright, so yeah. Right, so it's really working for, see what I mean? So that's really good. Right? So it does accept pen, and it actually makes it look, it looks really good. So you use a graphic one, which is a little bit bigger. Right, so I think the way this would work is the felt, like if you use a felt tip, So like your microns, your Faber-Castells, your touch liners and stuff like that, it works really well, like with ink. So we're gonna try this one, which is my favorite inking tool, which is this Tombow. So it doesn't necessarily like this, where it's putting out a lot of ink. All right, so it's beating. You probably can't see that much, but it's beating at the edges, right? And that's because it's just a lot of ink that's coming out of the pen, and so it's just beating on the edges. So a different type of material, a different type of utensil, and the paper is acting differently, right? And so if it's something that lets out a lot of ink, it doesn't seem like it really wants to accept that much, because it beads out towards the end. So we got the felt tip markers, which really work because it's not putting out a lot of ink, but something like a brush pen, it doesn't really care for that. Then of course, we'll just bring out our Sharpie, which is dead. Not to worry, we have another one. All right, so here we go. Yeah, once again, it's more of a felt tip, right? So the felt tip is actually working pretty nicely, right? And it's not breaking up on the edges and stuff like that. So it seems like I said, if there's a felt tip, it works well. For some reason, it doesn't really enjoy the ballpoint pen. I'm gonna use a different one and see. No, maybe it was just that one. Seems to work just fine with pen. Yeah, works just fine with pen. So ballpoint pen, felt tip pen, those seem to work just fine. But if it's more like a brush pen and it lets out a lot of ink, it doesn't work. And yeah, obviously this paper, like I said, the paper's pretty thin, so it is bleeding, but that is to be expected. And so we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna take a quick alcohol base. Like, it's already been established that it doesn't want that, right? Like, it's like, no, we don't do that. But let's just see how it works. Seems to work just fine. So if you're trying to do some quick like marker work, right, it seems to hold up pretty nicely. Although what it does look like it's doing is completely drying out that marker, right? Look at how, like, this is black and it just completely turned it gray. So it's like you're gonna have to go over it a couple times. But if you're just trying to throw some stuff out, right? Right, so if you're just trying to really quick just establish some things, right? I don't know. Seems like it handles that just fine too. Right, so it's a little one. Let's see about something that, like a Shinhan touch marker, and see how that works. So going over it, you go over it pretty quickly and then it fills in. So yeah, I don't know. It seems like it works just fine. And look, yeah, anytime you go over it, it bleeds to the other side. But if you really are trying to preserve your paper, then you can just put something down. But I went over that a lot, right? And that's all you got. So it seems to be, right? It seems to be pretty good. I want to try something. One last thing. I want to see, right? Want to see what'll happen mostly because I just don't want to wait forever, but I want to see what will happen if we go over it. Oh, look at that. All right, so I'm definitely doing a more graphic thing, but look at that. It allows for that to work. It doesn't look like it's bleeding anywhere, and it is super wet. Right? Like normally I would have waited to go over that color, but just for sake of time, and even though it was wet here and wet here, it's barely affecting that edge, right? And so if you had, you know, I don't know, if you're trying to establish something, you just come in and you could just hide that edge, right, if you wanted to. But even with that, like, it barely bled in, so if you actually let that dry, I don't think that you'd really have an issue. You know, like if we came over here, top of the blue, right? Is that dried? Look at that edge. Look at that. That's fantastic. Now I know that they're saying that it was just, I mean, granted, you know, it bleeds through because it's thin paper, but you know, if you wanted to put a piece of paper in between it, then, but it holds up a really nice edge over the color. The only one that really faded was the black, which you would then establish with a Sharpie or something like that. I mean, there you go. All right, so we just got done reviewing the Dollar Tree sketchbook from Treehouse Pad and Paper, and I mean, go buy this book. Go to your dollar store and pick this book up. This was fantastic. I mean, the paper, yes, the paper was thin, but it held up to pencil, it held up to pen, it held up to, you know, the alcohol markers. I mean, this was fantastic paper. Now, I don't know if it would do really well with like watercolor because it's a lot of water. Remember when we were looking at the pen, and that pen put out a lot more ink and it started to fray towards the end and stuff like that. Like the paper didn't want to accept that. But alcohol-based stuff, the ink, it worked great. Like, this is a fantastic buy. Go pick this up. This is absolutely worth it. So any of you who are like, oh, I don't have any money for for sketchbooks, my students, I'm talking to you guys. I don't have any money for sketchbooks. 50 pages, $1. Go pick it up. This is absolutely worth it. Well, I hope that you learned something from today's episode, and I hope that it helps you in some way to enjoy the craft more or just become a better artist. We are trying to establish a great series to help people so that they don't have to struggle through the materials, as there are tons and tons of materials out there. Now, if you have any suggestions on what you would like me to review, go ahead and drop it in the comments and I will gladly add it to the list, and we will do a review for Is It Worth It? And I just want to say thank you guys so very, very much for all the support and for coming out and, you know, interacting with these videos. It means a lot to me. Thank you so very, very much. If for any reason you are new to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so that you are notified every time I upload something new. Yeah, so thank you guys so very much, and I will see you at the next episode.